G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, the Volkswagen Amarok. If you listen to motoring journalists, these things are awesome. But it feels like if you listen to anyone in the off-roading community or even adventure community, these things are just a bit crap. Even when it comes to the owners of these things, some people absolutely love and adore them, whereas other people have had nothing but endless issues, including like catastrophic engine failures. Look, when these are brand new and have a full factory warranty, yeah, they're a pretty impressive piece of kit, but what about when they're not new? Like, do we believe the journalists or do we believe the off-roading community? Are these good or are they crap? What goes wrong with them? What do they like to live with on a daily basis? What do they cost to own and operate? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, as I'm sure you already know, these are the only truly European 4x4 dual cab ute. Yes, there's the Mercedes X-Class, but we all know that's just a Nissan Navara wearing some stylish German lipstick. And even calling this European is stretching it, because unless it's the Highline or the Ultimate, most of these are actually made in Argentina. And last time I checked, Argentina is nowhere near Europe. In that time, the Amarok has been available in a wide variety of trim levels and special editions. And depending on spec, in 2-wheel or 4Motion 4-wheel drive, with a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel or petrol engine, or the very popular 3-litre turbo diesel V6, mated to either a 6-speed manual or 8-speed auto in single or dual cabs and as a cab chassis or as a ute or pickup. The option of a low-range transfer case mated to a 6-speed manual were introduced later in the life cycle, as well as even longer-lengthed XL and XXL chassis variants. Plus, the Amarok has seen continual updates during its life cycle, most notably in 2016 when it received a midlife update, being equipped with an updated interior, a subtle facelift, and revised equipment and features. Now look, we'd love to go over every graphic detail of every upgrade and variant in this video, but it would take forever, because to put this into perspective, there have been nearly 100 different variants of Amaroks. It would be the longest video in the history of mankind. But we have gathered all that information and we've put it in our handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now guys, if you already own an Amarok or you're an Amarok expert and you've noticed in this video that we've missed something, please let us know in the comments below. Like, obviously we're doing our best to cover as much as we possibly can, but we generally find it's those that own these that are the true experts. So yeah, if we've missed something, please let us know in the comments. But you know, be nice, because we have feelings and we read all those comments. Okay, so does it look good? I think we can all agree this is a pretty attractive looking ute. I think it's one of the better looking 4x4 dual cab utes on the market. It has that kind of, I'm cool and European, but I'm still ready to be all rugged and tough kind of look going on. Yeah, it's good. Now, as you've probably noticed, this particular Amarok is fitted with some aftermarket wheels, and it's also just sitting just a smidge lower, but we'll get to why it's sitting lower a little bit later in the driving impressions. But as far as common issues and problems with these go, in terms of the exterior, it's pretty good. Look, there are no sort of common problems as such. There are some reports that the door locking mechanisms can kind of freak out and fail. It should have been covered under warranty. And on early model Amaroks, there are reports that the paint can fade and even crack. Again, it should have been covered under warranty. But again, they're not common problems. There's just a few reports floating around the internet. But one thing to check out are any signs of off-road abuse or dodgy repair work. Look, you'll generally find that Hiluxes and Rangers and Tritons are used off-road far more than these things are, but make sure you get underneath and look for any signs of abuse, or worse, any signs of dodgy repair work. So how's the interior? Well, from a design aspect, this was, for this generation of 4x4 dual cab ute, the best of the interiors of all of them, and it is still really nice. It is aging just a little bit in design terms, but still a lovely place to be. The ergonomics are spot on, like everything's where it should be, everything's really easy to reach. The seats are super, super comfortable, although I do have a few mates that are a little bit larger in stature and they don't find these seats as comfortable. Personally, I think this is spot on. Driving position, excellent. Heaps of adjustability in the steering wheel, both in telescope and height. As far as the materials go, there's a few scratchy plastics here and there. It's not too bad. It is, it's a work ute, so it needs to be tough to be able to handle any real abuse. There are some reports that some of this trim, mainly on early Amaroks, can sort of fall away a bit, leaving some sharp edges, which can apparently cut you. As far as wear and tear goes, it's wearing pretty well. Like, this is this guy's daily driver and work ute, but you wouldn't know, like the leather still feels really nice, even on the gear selector's great. Here it feels nice. All the hard plastics obviously are wearing quite well. Switch gear, everything still feels really good. Even the seat leather, wearing really nicely. Look, there aren't any common problems as such. There are a couple of reports of the window mechanisms making some pretty horrible noises and buttons just failing to work after a while, but don't get me wrong, they're not common issues. I've just read a few reports of that, but overall, wearing really well. Okay, now the back seat, I'm 0.00116 miles tall. This is in my driving position, and it's oddly cramped back here. I say oddly cramped because my feet have heaps of room, my head and shoulders has heaps of room, but my legs, again, I'm forced into this like OnlyFans style leg spread just to fit back here. If I try to be all ladylike, it's very cramped and horrible. Even sit a bit too upright, it's just a bit frustrating. As far as wear and tear goes back here, look, again, this is used on a daily basis. People sit back here all the time. You'd never know. The leather is wearing exceptionally well. All the door cards, everything feels pretty new. So how's the tech? Well, it's going to vary depending on year and spec and model and all that sort of stuff. But overall, none of it was overly terrible. It is, again, feeling its age a little bit, but it's pretty good. The vast majority of Amarok feature infotainment controlled via a touchscreen of various different sizes, with this, the 6.33 inch, being the most common. And Apple CarPlay and Android Auto were introduced in 2017. Depending on year and spec, other tech features include front and rear parking sensors, a reversing camera, dusk sensing headlights, rain sensing wipers, dual zone climate control, and cruise control. One thing that is a little bit disappointing is that it only has one USB port. Now, these things are used as like a family car these days, and only having one USB port when everyone has a device is basically a reason to have a civil war within your family. So that's a bit disappointing, although it does have 12-volt power outlets all over the place. Also, there are reports of the infotainment systems kind of glitching out and failing. Again, it's not a common problem. It is very rare, mainly on earlier ones, and it should have been fixed up under warranty, but just be aware of that. And guys, as always, to find out what Amarok has which level of technology, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out the cheat sheet. Is it practical? Well, oh God. Yes, it actually has the widest tray in its class, and it can fit a full Aussie pallet back here. Also, the tray is sprung, so it's easier to open and close, although that one nearly killed me. And it's ribbed for your pleasure. Although, not all Amaroks have this tray liner in here, so these can get scratched up pretty easily if it hasn't got this. Practicality in the back seat, you've got decent sized door bins, you've got map pockets on the backs of the seats, there's a 12-volt power outlet here. There's cup holders back here, but they're like super flimsy. Like, I just don't understand. I can't imagine they're going to last all that long. If you've had one of these and they've broken, let us know in the comment section. Also, this seat can flip up and also flip down, but oddly, there's no extra storage under it. Just kind of flips up in case you want to fit, like, I don't know, a Christmas tree back here or something. And practicality up front, you've got a spot for your sunglasses up there. You've got this awesome little tray area here for like your phone and bits of paper and just stuff. Decent sized glove box, spot for your phone down here. Doesn't have wireless charging, perfect spot for it, doesn't have it. Two cup holders here, bit of a cubby hole down here, and really good sized door pockets that are carpeted to keep your cold drinks warm. Okay, before we get into what goes wrong with these, can I ask a favor, guys? And can you please hit those like, subscribe, and bell icon buttons? And after the video, go and check us out on the socials. Okay, so what does go wrong with these mechanically? Well, mechanically, these things have a bit of a checkered reputation when it comes to reliability. But I can't comment on that because I'm not a mechanic, but Jim is.
Despite Volkswagen statistically being at the low end of the reliability rankings, the Amarok, it isn't too bad. We find that the V6 versions are better than the 4-cylinder versions, and the later 4-cylinder versions are better than the earlier 4-cylinder versions. Some of the common problems we see in the workshop are EGR problems, DPF problems, we see turbo problems, we see injector seals leaking, wheel speed sensor faults are fairly common. We see a lot of coolant leaks. Now, coolant leak can lead to overheating, and overheating can lead to a catastrophic engine failure. We've also seen timing belt tensioners fail long before they're scheduled for renewal. If you are looking at one, make sure it's got a good, solid service history. But keep in mind, all of these problems we see occur in well-serviced examples too. The differentials and transmissions are pretty strong, but a fun fact about the Amarok, if you want to reverse a trailer up a driveway, or if you're stuck in sand, from a standstill, they limit about half of the torque in reverse, so you might be stuck. You can have this corrected with aftermarket tuning, but in some cases that can affect your warranty. They do have their fair share of problems and quirks, and keep in mind some Volkswagen parts are more expensive than their non-Euro competitors, so be warned.
So, is it safe? Well, that's an interesting question when it comes to the Amarok because, look, these do have a 5-star NCAP safety rating, but that was done way back in 2011. And I tell you what, these days, there's no way this is getting 5 stars because it has no airbags for the rear passengers. And even though this is still a current model technically, it also misses out on a host of modern safety tech like autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, and rear cross traffic alerts. However, look, it does have front airbags, electronic stability control, ABS, trailer sway control, and hill descent control. So as long as you're up here, you're kind of safe, but if you're back there, yeah, you're on your own. So what's it like to drive? Well, this is the V6, and this engine, it's a beast. Like, this one actually has a bit of a mild tune to it, and it's quick. Like, it's not just quick for a ute, it's a quick vehicle. Like, out of this roundabout, bloody hell. Wow. That's impressive. Now, it should be noted that this V6 turbo diesel engine is actually the same turbo diesel as featured in the Porsche Cayenne and the Audi Q7. So theoretically, you can tell people that your Volkswagen Amarok Ute has a Porsche engine in it. Sort of, kind of. The actual power delivery, more like the torque, is so smooth and so linear. Even at like freeway speeds, if you want to overtake, it just gets up and hustles so easily. Because the transmission has no low range as such and doesn't have a transmission cooler, we do know of a load of reports where if these things are being pushed really hard off-road or they're being used to tow all the time, especially in warm climates, yeah, the transmission can overheat. Actually, many experts seem to think that this transmission was designed and engineered mainly for colder European climates than the immense heat that we can have here in Australia. Speaking of transmissions, most Amaroks, this one included, have permanent all-wheel drive. So especially like on loose surfaces or like a wet road, these things, they just feel so secure all the time. Actually, I should mention that the only other 4x4 dual cab ute that can run in all-wheel drive all the time on a sealed surface is the Mitsubishi Triton with its excellent Super Select 2 system. The suspension and the ride and just the quality of handling in this thing, even after this many years and many thousands of kilometers, is excellent. Like, yes, this one has been lowered just a little bit, but the spring rate's the same, so it shouldn't have any major difference on the way it handles and feels. And I've driven Amaroks before and they all feel pretty much the same. But they get rid of that typical 4x4 dual cab jiggle that so many of them are guilty of. It just feels secure and planted all the time. Now look, I know this has been said a bunch of times before, but even after this many years and this many kilometers, this doesn't feel like driving a 4x4 dual cab ute. It feels like driving a nicely set up SUV or even a car. It never feels big and like intimidating to drive. Like, it is a big unit of a thing, but it seems to hide its size really well because the visibility is really good. The mirrors are excellent. It's just a breeze. Even in like the tightest car park or the tightest parking spot, it's an absolute breeze. Even after the years of use that this thing has dealt with, there's no rattles, there's no squeaks, everything feels as tight as a drum. There's even minimal wind and road noise. Even on the freeway, it just feels refined. But all of these excellent on-road characteristics do come at a bit of a cost when it comes to hardcore off-roading. Now look, don't get me wrong, these things will tackle most of the terrain that most people will throw at them, but when it comes to serious off-roading, there are some issues. Many in the off-roading community still aren't fans of the fact that this thing relies on its fancy electronics rather than a traditional low-range transfer case. Probably hence why Volkswagen have released a 6-speed manual version of the Amarok Core that does have a low-range transfer case. But because there are way more of these automatic versions out there, we're going to focus on this. Yes, this does have a rear diff lock, and yes, it works in conjunction with the very clever off-road electronics. But there are some other fundamental issues when it comes to taking these things seriously off-road. Firstly, the intake for the engine sits at the front of the engine facing forward behind the front grille, so it can potentially suck water or mud into the engine, possibly even hydro-locking the engine. Then the airbox requires tools to get into it, so if you need to check the air filter or clean out any extra dust or muck, it's a bit of a nightmare to get to. Then you've got the alternator, and it's situated far too low in the engine bay, so it's really susceptible again to mud and dust and crap, and that's just no good. Look, yes, even after this many years and this many kilometres, these things are still fantastic on-road, and they'll tackle the vast majority of off-roading that most people will throw at them. But it just doesn't have the off-roading depth of talent of the likes of, say, a Triton or a Ranger or even a Hilux, but it's way better on-road than all of those. As long as you're not towing anything too heavy for too long, or if it's too hot or too dusty. Pricing here in Australia kicks off from as little as $10,000, although what condition a $10,000 Amarok is in makes me nervous even thinking about it. At the other end of the spectrum, these things top out at around about $90,000. That's just a $80,000 discrepancy between cheapest and most expensive. That's insane. Something like this, a 27 TDI 550 Ultimate in excellent condition with a reasonable amount of kilometres on it, even this, anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000. And for pricing in the UK, but not in the US because you guys never received these, so we're going to go with South Africa instead. Here's a graphic. Volkswagen's claimed fuel consumption figure ranges from 7.3 to 9.7 litres per 100 kilometres, depending on year, model, spec, what colour your hair is, what sort of t-shirt you're wearing, all that sort of stuff. This particular car is claimed at 9 litres per 100 kilometres, which is being hilariously optimistic because on this test, we're seeing figures closer to 15.4. Volkswagen offered a pretty underwhelming 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty up until the end of December 2018 on Amaroks, when it was increased to 5 years unlimited kilometres, meaning that many Amaroks will still have some factory support left on them, and let's be honest, having some factory support left on these is a good thing. Servicing is recommended at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, but remember, the cost of spare parts, at least here in Australia, are going to be asking a premium over its Asian-sourced counterparts because it's European, or Argentinian. So should you buy one? Well, to explain that, we're going to need a graphic. So this is a sliding scale that represents you, okay? So up this end, you've got adventuring all the time, constantly off-road, basically your Bear Grylls all the time. At this end of the spectrum, we've got 9 to 5 you that has a family and groceries and things to do, responsibilities. For me, look, I'd love to be up this end, but realistically, I sit about here. Like, I work a lot and I like to go adventuring occasionally. So yeah, I sit around about there. Then we have a sliding scale of what the Amarok represents. At this end of the scale, we have, luxury cars like the 5 Series BMW and E-Class Mercedes. Beautiful cars. At this end of the spectrum, we have hardcore, purpose-built, insane off-roaders. A Hilux and say a Ford Ranger, they fit about here. The Amarok fits around about here because, these ones, they're crap at off-roading and these ones are crap at on-roading. So the Amarok, it's a bit more on the luxury side down here. So what does all this mean? Well, if your lifestyle sits around about here, like where the Amarok is, then yes, you should buy an Amarok. Just make sure it's the V6 and make sure it's in the best possible condition that you can afford and has a faultless service history. But if your lifestyle fits kind of up here somewhere, then no, you shouldn't buy an Amarok. You need something that's way more hardcore off-roader. But at the other end of the spectrum, if your lifestyle fits around about here, then no, you shouldn't buy an Amarok. You shouldn't buy a 4x4 dual cab at all. You should buy a car, or at worst, an SUV. So basically, if your lifestyle genuinely requires an Amarok and you can afford the V6 and you can afford the mental stress that might come with things that possibly go wrong, yes, you should buy an Amarok. But just don't buy an older 4-cylinder one or anything that has a checkered past, because for what they cost, there's better options out there. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and hey, what did you think of the Amarok? Please let us know in those comments below. And remember, can you hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and after the video, go and check us out on the socials. See you next time. Overly major or over... That was terrible, here we go. But one thing to definitely check out is... Fucking no, it's... Jesus. Okay, here we go. All right, cool. So, cool. But one thing to definitely check out for fucking... What am I even trying to say? But one thing to check out for... Come on, Morris, here we go. Here we go, this is the one. Here we go. But one thing to check out are any signs of a decent presenter. Are gonna ask a premium over its Asian... Oh, brain just stopped. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Servicing is recommended at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, but remember... Come on, Morris. A lot of these things are used as family vehicles and having... Okay, here we go, here we go. Look, there aren't any common issues as such. There are... Fucking bus. Purpose-built off-roaders, like seriously hardcore car going past. Here we go, here we go.